Hello, hello, and welcome to another weekly edition of the Cheap Seats. Last week was a little bit awkward because we had two, because some people decided to have a super and exclude other children, and then decide 48 hours later that the grand plans weren't grand enough for them to stand firm. But we're back this week. We've got Cyrus back in again. And so this is your weekly show. We talk all things English Premier League. A lot of things have happened. All the teams around the top four don't want to take the number 4 spot. West Ham have possibly started a slide. I'm not so sure if you would call it that. Chelsea are now somehow pumping their chests up, even in European competition, as well as Manchester City, which is something very odd. So maybe we needed to kind of get Manchester City wanting to win a European title. But today we're going to talk about the one big thing that's happened, and that is Harry Kane. Nothing happened to him. He's just lost another final. So he's been at Spurs 7 years, and somehow people are now wanting him to leave because bigger and better things somewhere else in the world. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about whether Arsenal should be a table side, as well as a little bit about the curious case of Timo Werner. We'll get to that. And also maybe if there's time, just put in a quick predictions there for Manchester United versus Liverpool. Klopp hasn't won it since he's been Liverpool manager, so that's going to be quite interesting. But before we continue, just remember, please interact with us on all these platforms. We are live on all of these platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and also on YouTube. Send through your comments as well. If you'd like, please like and subscribe. That's the most important thing for us. Like and subscribe. Let us get into those algorithms, those Premier League shows and podcasts that are in and around YouTube. I'm going to start with Cyrus. Cyrus, how have you been?
I've been good.
In Super League that ended in 2 days. And since you were left, since you last appeared.
I think, I hold my tongue. Let me not speak. The Super League was... It was an inevitability, and also the demise of it was fairly inevitable as well. I think not for the reasons that everybody thought, the fans have done so much, but in essence, it really became a face-saving exercise. How much bad publicity can you really, ride before it becomes too much? And when you look at the La Liga side, still refusing to cave in, because frankly, La Liga has been
they need a Super League.
Not just that. I mean, they need a daily Super League, but in essence, part of their problem also has to do with the fact that they generally only have 2, maybe 3 sides who actually are competitive and fight for the title. So, then that will affect stuff. But anyway, that's a completely different conversation.
I feel bad that you left out my beloved Valencia, but I do. Gene,
look, just because Gary Neville coached them doesn't mean you love them forever.
I'm Rafa just messing with you. Way.
Oh, please. He coached my team, and I'll never be Team Rafa. I'm just saying, it's just one of those things.
So, Dean, how was the weekend for you? A major final, which is obviously what you're not used to as a Spurs fan, and heartbreak again.
Heart rate and heartbreak FC.
I mean, in terms of the football, it was inevitable. We weren't going to win that final, but it was the hope that got me. And it's the 81-minute, 83rd minute header. I'm sitting there for 83 minutes. First half was terrible. They were all over us. And then you start to believe a little bit, and you start believing, and then we just can't defend. So it was,
Welcome to your first cup final. It's a hell of a thing. I know we go through this often, a lot of us. And if anything, the liquor stores are very busy before and afterwards to calm the nerves and to assuage the disappointment.
The good thing, though, it was City, though. So, if it was an average team like Chelsea, I think that would have been more upset. Yeah.
Look, Chelsea are fairly average. Champions League semi-final, 3rd in the league. Okay, I lied.
Yeah, but it's not the prestigious Carabao. So.
That cup. The one where you fire your manager before the final. It really matters that much. Yeah.
It does.
AB, Manchester United have been quietly preparing for AS Roma, the return of Mickey, the return of Chris Smalling. how are you feeling? Like, it's been quiet. Not a lot of news around Ole, but how are you doing?
I'm fine. Hey, I'm excited to see Mkhitaryan and Mike Smalling back. They're gonna look. Pity there's no crowd to welcome them, but it is what it is. Yeah, no, I'm chilled. Eh? Spurs losing another cup final. It is what it is. Just yeah. I didn't watch because no one wants to see City win a trophy, so I just didn't watch. Just like nah.
So
you're not going to watch the Champions League final?
Nope. Nope. I don't want to see that.
Man, the way Paris botched that is something else.
Oh, guys.
But Dean,
you know how close I was to saying like, here's Poch ball, let's go Poch, and then I was like, okay, thank goodness I didn't say anything.
But here's a question for you, Dean. Before we move in, would you take Poch back
in a heartbeat?
Yeah.
For this
why wouldn't he?
I would take him back in. I mean, it's Ryan Mason at the moment, so. Of course, I take Poch back.
There's only one Ryan Mason. Or is that Brian, if you ask Pep?
Yeah, Brian Mason. Brian Mason. Games. So, Dean, I'm going to start with you on this. Okay, no, let's not. We're going to end with you on this. Harry Kane has been in Spurs for since God knows when, but he's been in that first team since 2009. Since 2009, and he got loaned out, and he started obviously playing properly since 2013. So he's been there for about 7-8 years. Hasn't won a trophy. He is arguably, I would say, top 2 strikers in the world, maybe top 3. I don't know who I'm leaving out. And obviously Spurs are holding on to this massive asset, and they haven't been able to build a team around him that can win a trophy and get him a gold medal or something, even a pendant. But I think he got a medal. So that's something. And that Champions League final was probably the culmination of Poch ball. It just didn't work out. And so I'm going to ask Cyrus: is it time for Harry Kane to leave? Is it like a American sports, I'm looking for my legacy type of thing? Or is it okay to have a player such as good as Harry Kane in the era of the Premier League Hall of Fame, where Harry Kane will be one of the greatest strikers to ever played in this league, but not won anything?
I'm going to read something out for you very, very quickly, and I'd like you to tell me, any one of you, please, as soon as you see the link between these names, tell me what it is. So the first one is Michael Carrick. The second one is Dimitar Berbatov. The third one is Teddy Sheringham.
Stop there. We know it's all the Spurs.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
So I think that basically answers the question. The problem for Spurs really is, when you have a good player and a great player like Harry Kane is, you have to start achieving things. And I think that Kane is an ambitious footballer, though not necessarily known as being a great spokesperson. His lack of words, he makes up for with his ability with his foot. And I think that's good. But the thing for me is, I do think it would be great for Spurs if he was able to just say, you know what, I don't care what happens in my career. I'm going to Charles Barkley this thing and just carry on playing. But even Charles Barkley moved to different teams, hoping to win a championship late in his career, and it didn't happen, right? And I think that for Harry Kane, weirdly, he almost needs to do a reverse Shearer, in the sense that Alan Shearer won the Premier League at Blackburn, then went to his hometown club and tried to do something. Harry Kane has tried and tried and tried, and there's not much more a man can do as a striker at a club than Kane has done at Spurs in the last 4 or 5 seasons. The time is now for him to test himself at another club, and I do think it will be an English club, and I think that, for me, an odds-on place will be United. Just the link between the clubs, and in terms of the kinds of football that they play, United will bring the best. Well, not even bring the best. He'd be an absolute firecracker at United. I mean, what they did with Van Persie, you'd expect the same thing with Kane at United. The only thing probably holding them back is the Glazers, and also Harry Kane thinking, am I okay being hated by Spurs fans? Because if he left the club, right, and Dean will back me up here, and he went to United, you won't be fondly remembering Harry Kane as he's, scoring a hat-trick against you guys at Old Trafford, kissing the badge. I think that, you'd be a lot more amenable to him moving to like a AC Milan or Real Madrid even, so that he's scoring goals and you can think of him fondly like we do with Eden Hazard.
The same Eden didn't play. So here's the thing, AB. You've seen Manchester United have taken every bit, have had this aura of them taking everybody who was the best in the league. Harry Kane is currently going to make it into the Hall of Fame. We found out about the Hall of Fame last week. He's had 5 of his 7 seasons in the top flight for Spurs. He scored 5 seasons with over 20 plus goals. That is a Premier League winner for you. And Spurs have not been able to get the best out of him. For you, I looked at that Man City team last night and I kind of felt that the one missing thing was him.
Was a striker? A striker?
Not him. Just say striker. Not him.
A striker.
No, it's him. It's not Richarlison, as Cyrus
It's
said.
Aguero.
It's Harry Kane. Do you think Manchester United has the clout or Man City have the clout to bring in a Harry Kane and try and pay I'm assuming the valuation is probably going to be about 100 million to 120 million. And what do you think it will do to the league?
So I think Levy wants 175, if I'm not mistaken.
What?
I think, yep, he wants
you must pay,
more
bro.
money.
I want a supercar. There's certain things that will and won't happen.
So ultimately,
will
I see this happening just like with the Berbatov move. If Kane says transfer request, I need to go, and I think just based on what I understand is I think United would be his 3rd destination in England. If I was Kane, I would look at City first because that club is perfect almost. Yeah, I mean they're losing their greatest ever player, and he's a striker, and you've got Harry Kane waiting in the wings. So why not go to City? They've walked this league. They're walking the Champions League at the moment. Go to City. If you can't go to City for whatever reason, I would actually think of my family in this regard, and I'd go somewhere London-wise, and I'd go to Chelsea. Because again, Chelsea don't have an out-and-out number 9.
Nope.
You won't
That
go to
would hurt.
Arsenal because
That would hurt
one that's
everybody, including me.
You.
I do not want to be London at all. Don't go to Chelsea, Harry. If you're listening to this, do not go to Chelsea, please.
I think the days of us seeing English superstars, and Harry Kane is an English superstar, if not a world superstar, moving to Spain and Paris and Milan and all of that, because the world is a completely different place where we are now. Why would you want to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona and scrap it out for the league there? Your whole system
between
is
one other team. No, you'll be fine.
no. Well, you can, the chasing pack in England for City is
If what he wants is to be a league winner, go to Real Madrid. Heavens, I mean, you don't have to do anything else.
But also, Real Madrid are in a transitionary period right now, and they've got Benzema, who is not being usurped.
He's been fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Barcelona, they don't really need a traditional number 9. They play a different system. Also, Messi's on the way out. You don't want to go to a Barcelona team with Messi on the way out. You want to go to a Man City team who've got unlimited cash.
Full Foden coming up.
We've got full Foden. City needs
Kevin De Bruyne.
Harry Kane. Exactly. And I see him honestly going to City. It's sad, but I see it happening. If he wants to leave Spurs. If he doesn't want to leave Spurs, no.
So no Liverpool with FSG trying to appease the fans and say,
No. Liverpool in for Harry Kane. I'm not saying they don't have the money nor the pull. I mean, in essence, if you're looking at a club that could do it, it's probably Liverpool. But when you look at the system that they play, they'd have to change things up because Kane is not going to Firmino when he's at Liverpool, I mean, Firmino's false nining for days, so.
And that's smart.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, who do you want to... Like, imagine, okay, cool. If Sterling's not crossing the ball to you, then it's Mahrez, or then it's Phil Foden, or it's Bernardo Silva, or
the through ball
from De Bruyne. My God. Just go to City.
That it makes sense. I mean, that's a proper super team thing. But geesh, it's not fair.
Dean, I know the answer to this question for you is no. Harry Kane shouldn't leave. But what does Daniel Levy do to keep Harry Kane? If you were Harry Kane, what would you want? And spell it out. Is it a manager? Is it defenders? Is it a birthday cake?
Honestly, I think Harry Kane.
Those don't even get given at City.
Yeah.
Harry Kane can literally demand anything and he'll get it. And I know there's already talks that Levy the next coach that we hire has to fit the club, but more importantly, Harry Kane has to like him. Because that's the only way that he even remotely stays, first of all. But in terms of the conversation of whether I think he needs to leave, I do. Look, obviously it hurts me to say, but from a club perspective, obviously I'll never want him to leave, ever. But from a personal admiration for him and what he's done and what he can go on and do and just his abilities, you do kind of sit there and say, I think you walk on. Like we've served you well, but perhaps it's time. Yeah. And the only thing is, and this is the one part where probably going to get proven wrong, but I do think his loyalties to Spurs are strong. And that's why I don't think another club in England is where he'll end up, just purely based on what we've seen him say in the past. I mean, he had an interview this week where he said, he doesn't want to win individual awards. He wants to win it with the team. And he does have a love for Spurs. There's no doubt about that. So honestly, as much as you said, maybe not Spain or something like that, I don't think Spain. I do definitely think a PSG is a pretty big option for him. If you've got an Mbappe also on the side of you, Neymar behind you, there's Poch, which you're going to work in that system. That's a big draw card. If I'm Harry Kane, I'm looking at PSG and saying, look, he just wants to win a title. So it's not that PSG are bossing League One either, but you're more guaranteed of something there than you are somewhere else. I don't think Italy's a place. I don't think it would suit that kind of style of play. I don't think he goes there. But I think it's between he either stays at Spurs or he goes to PSG for me. That's, if I'm Harry Kane, that's the two things I'm thinking of. But having said that, if we had won on Sunday, it would have gone a long way to keep him. But I think Spurs are then in a bigger pound seat there. But a lot has to do with the coach now that we get in. And there's obviously a lot of names been thrown around, and Ajax coach Ten Hag is obviously a big one. Looks like he's the front runner. And I think, like any of us are avid watchers of Dutch football, I don't think. So I don't know if any of us know that kind of style of play, but maybe sorry. But I think hopefully he comes in, and I've read up a little bit about him, and it may suit Harry Kane's game. But at the same time, I mean, he's 27, 28. He should have done a lot more by now in terms of winning trophies. He should have done a lot more, like the numbers you say. I mean, you don't just find a striker like that. And that's, I think, the biggest thing with Spurs. You don't find a Harry Kane in your academy again. No one finds a Harry Kane in any of their academies. You find a Harry Winks. Yeah. Okay, that's and really good. And Ryan. Look, there's obviously everyone's like, yes, he's the next Harry Kane. He's showing Harry Kane ability. Keep the Harry Kane you got and just make him happy and win stuff. Simple as.
Well, so can I jump in here? Can I jump in here? Right? Because I think that Dean's made some very valid points. I think there's two things we have to remember here. The first one being that Daniel Levy wants 175 mil, and it's not going to happen because this is a depressed market. Who's going to pay that? No. Secondly, if Harry Kane does say he wants to go, it's going to be one of those things that it literally, affects the entire club, but they're going to push for as much money as possible. And I do think that Ten Hag from Ajax is potentially actually the best coach for Spurs at the moment. Because when you if you look back at the Ajax team that you guys beat on the way to the Champions League final, the system they play is actually quite dynamic, and he'd be able to get the best out of a lot of those players. And also, often these guys come with players as well. Can you imagine the Spurs team bringing in a Tagliafico who can play left back for you? even a David Neres, who and bringing the best out of those kinds of players, because you'll come with them and they won't come at a massive price tag. And I think that it then gives the entire squad a completely different look and feel. I also think that, Mourinho's style of play really hampered a lot of the growth of guys. I mean, look, Dele Alli had been struggling before Jose not necessarily before, but he struggled the entire time through Jose. Can you imagine a Ten Hag comes there and says, look, I want to make you the Dusan Tadic of this. Remember, because Tadic is ripping it up at Ajax. And Ten Hag could potentially do the same thing for somebody like Dele Alli. I mean, Ali is potentially a superstar that's just been wasted because he didn't have the right attitude for Mourinho.
I think for me, and Cyrus, you make some very good points on Erik ten Hag, and I think if you look at the types of players he's managed to work with throughout that system, yes, you can give it to the entire Ajax system, but the fact that he got those kids at 19, 20 to get to a Champions League semi-final and then get them sold. Yes, Ajax is a selling club, we know that. Sold to Barcelona, to Juventus, to Donny, to Manchester United, who's benching for some odd reason, but
he's coming back home, though. Don't worry, he's coming to Spurs.
But then also look at what he's done. Look at what he's done with the vets who come into that side.
Tadic,
like Dusan Tadic coming back in. You had that man who was at Manchester United, whose name escapes me, who's pretty much the captain of that Ajax side. And so for me, that's
David
a good.
Klaassen, he was at Everton.
He was at Everton.
Daily
Blind.
Yeah, Blind. Yes, him. Yes. And you can see the type of structure that he has. Yes, you can call Holland or Netherlands a farmers league, but he's winning and he's playing in Europe. The one thing for me that this Harry Kane argument that I want that he needs to answer is he happy that going into the final month of the season that he is not a part of any of the title races? Yes, he's been to the Carabao Cup, but that was supposed to be in February. But if you look now, there are 4 English teams in European semi-finals. He's not one of them. There are, yes, City have run away with the title, but at this point in time, they should have been in and around that mix, chasing City, or even 1, 2, or 3, or 4. And
they were there.
That's the worst part about it.
Yes, and it fell apart. But so for me, the thing for him is this is where football becomes exciting. That's what the European Super League does not get. This part, well, what they do get is that this part of the year is where football is exciting, is where people watch, where musicals watch, where heroes are made, where legends are made. And Harry Kane every year sits out and watches from the sidelines. He enjoyed it once when they made that Champions League run, but after that, nothing else. And so for me, that's where the thing is. And you have to look across England, because I think going to Spain and whatever it is, your legacy will always be you never won English Premier. So for me, go find a team in England that can give you that consistently, and that is one piece away. And there's only one team that's one piece away, and that's City. United claim they're one piece away.
No, we're not. No one claims that.
But they're not one piece away.
If they scored more goals.
Yes.
That goes for every team, Cyrus. If every team scored more goals, they'd be up there.
Look, that's not necessarily true, because there are a lot of goal-scoring teams who concede too many. So, that is the argument. But I see what you tried there, Dean.
But Chelsea under Tuchel are also, you could say, one piece away. It's that striker problem that they have, but they spend the money on Timo Werner. The question is, how long are they willing to wait? But then
Chelsea aren't afraid to ship strikers away. Remember Morata.
But remember as well, outside of that, you had the Fernando Torres, and this is the one thing I haven't seen the comparisons. Werner's not having a Torres type of season, and I don't know if we're actually jumping the gun by talking about him.
It's a great segue. Let's talk about Timo Werner. Okay. This season hasn't been great, though.
No, look, I was actually looking at his stats, and he's scored 11 goals, and he's had 12 assists in all competitions. It's not an absolute horror show. The thing is, it's the misses, and not just it's the types of misses. The big chances that are being completely hashed against Real Madrid the other night. I mean, gosh, you know, it was just a terrible finish. But having said that, he was a bit rushed. I do think, though, that he's missed easier chances in the past and made bad decisions.
Yes. So the stat is, in the Premier League, it's 29 chances created, and he's only converted 6.
It's a terrible conversion rate.
Yes, and so the question about it is that how long are you willing to sit with a striker like that? Because as a manager, I'd be happy that he's creating those chances, even though he's not converting them. But there comes a time where you kind of need to score, because and let me ask Dean and AB this question. Would you, in your current situation right now, I know, Dean, you wouldn't because you got Harry Kane, but AB, would you take a Timo Werner to be
United?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
This is a man who has Anthony Martial in his team, and he won't take Timo Werner. I'm just saying, that's weird.
That's amazing. Yeah.
The thing with Werner is he's so similar to the best version of Anthony Martial, and I think Martial will come right. I think Ollie has some faith in him. If we're handing out contracts to Eric Bailly, geez, Anthony Martial is going to get a lifetime contract with the way things are going. But I don't believe Anthony Martial is the long-term number 9 of United. He's young and everything. He's 24, 25. But I think Ollie's going to go. Yeah, I think Ollie's going to go big for someone like Haaland. I think that's the man Ollie wants. And I think Werner and Martial are too similar of a player.
Terrible.
You know, this sort of mobile striker.
This is the most incredible comparison I've ever heard. Wow. I understand Martial likes to play on the left, but like, guys, Timo is surely a cut above him. But Dean, if Kane left, would you? Let's say Kane wanted to go to Chelsea. Would you take a swap and some money for Timo Werner? Line with Son?
I don't think I'd take a swap.
Yes, Dean?
He's frozen in the best pose ever.
Okay, I'm back. I don't think I would take a swap, but I do think any other club would be stupid to not take a Werner just because of what he's achieved. And I mean, everyone struggles in their first season in the Premier League. Like, that's no surprise, right? The only thing is,
Nistelrooy didn't.
Okay, relax.
Yeah, Timo Werner. I mean, great point, AB. You know, geesh, you're like, oh, well, why don't we just use this club legend?
Suarez didn't.
Okay, just let me finish my point. Here's my point. Werner, and I think that's exactly the thing with, like Sarah said, you find he hasn't had a terrible season, but he's missed chances which would have taken Chelsea to that next level. Like, getting that win against Real Madrid in the Champions League puts you in a completely different position to what you are now. Same with their league position. If you look at some of the places he's missed, they all of a sudden go from fighting for 4th to solidifying a top 4 position. And I think that's the problem that we're having with him. It's the fact that the expectations were high and the ability to achieve that was there. He just didn't make it. If the man's creating 29 chances, but they are, you know, out of this world chances and no one in world football can make them, 100%, then he's having a good season. But if they tap-ins, like what he's missing at the moment, that's when you start getting destroyed as a footballer. So I think if it was any other coach, maybe, I mean, Tuchel has said that, like, he just needs to relax and the form will come, and he's had interviews and people have questioned him about it. So I think the coach the faith is there, and I think there's no way Werner will go anywhere because I think Tuchel will trust him and he'll continue to back him, and I don't think that's an issue there. It's just a matter of time. I think it's just a case of when the news broke of Werner coming to the Premier League, you know, it was those Liverpool links. It was like, wow, here we come, another world-class striker, let's go. Then Chelsea got him. It was like just expectations loaded. And it's just that failure to match that, which makes it even worse. So I think it will come. Chelsea just have to be patient, although they don't have a good history of being patient. I mean, they were the first one to drop out of the ESL, so they, come and as they need. So we'll see.
Terrible.
Hopefully he stays. I think he's good for the Premier League. And there's no ways you can compare him to Martial, but maybe that's just me.
So, from my perspective, I would take him. So, in my perspective, I would take him. I love strikers like that. I think he would be an upgrade to what Arsenal have in the middle right now, even with those missed chances. But Laka's having a very good season. He scored, I think, 12 or 13 goals. And now he's injured, which is a problem for us. So for me, it's one of those situations where next season, give him one more season, and he has to be number 9. Cyrus, let go of Tammy Abraham, please. Free Tammy.
I would take Tammy.
No low spell.
I would take Tammy.
That's why you're Spurs. That's why you're always at Spurs, Dean. Why would you want to take Tammy?
Tammy Abraham is a fantastic.
You would walk into any club right now.
Yeah.
Tammy Abraham is so underrated. He can do everything.
Nah, guys, I disagree. I disagree.
Are you saying you wouldn't take Tammy at Arsenal?
He's terrible.
You wouldn't take Tammy at Arsenal? Come on, Paul.
Guys, the guy's behind you at Chelsea.
You would take Chris Wood. You would take Chris Wood at Arsenal. Don't lie.
No. Okay, yes. If we're a mid-table team, yes. That moves over to the next topic, the quick one. Arsenal being a mid-table team,
before we go there, right? Just to finish off this Werner thing, I think there's something that we have to remember. Okay, first, this is his first season in the Premier League. It's been a heck of an adjustment for him, and that has to be taken into consideration. But just remember that sometimes the best players are the ones who flourish when everyone else is flourishing around them. The pressure was on Werner to put away all of those chances because no one else was in the positions to score. And that's one of the major issues. At United, when Andy Cole was there, his conversion ratio was terrible to begin with. But because Dwight York was putting the chances away as well, the fact that it took Cole about 3, sometimes 4 chances to score, it was then lessened. It was like, York is the one who's taking the load off. So Werner's had to then carry the load of trying to get every single goal from this for Chelsea because they weren't coming from everywhere else. And I think that's some of the other pressure that needs to be taken off him. Pulisic needs to score. You got to give either Mason Mount, whoever is playing on the other sort of flank, they need to get more goals from midfield. That's a must. Now, to go back to the whole hating on Tammy Abraham, that is absolutely ridiculous, and Paul, that you would not have him at Arsenal. Now, to your point about Arsenal being a mid-table team, I would agree with that to an extent. Because I think the thing is, when you have the injury issues that you have had, there's the guys you're going to call on, your sort of second string, are nowhere close to the standard of keeping you in the top 6. I mean, as much as we like Saka, as much as we like Smith Rowe, it's the likes of Xhaka, where you're thinking, okay, so what are you actually adding to the mix here? How are you going to get us a goal? Nicola Pepe has got to start delivering. And I mean, he's been wasteful expenditure if ever there was any. There should be a Zondo commission about what's happening with Nicola Pepe. Because Arsenal went to the wholesaler and paid full price. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
How badly our guys. It's not on Nicola Pepe. 72 million was never supposed to be his price tag. But
it's like
my point.
I mean, you don't go into the gentleman's club with your credit cards out saying drinks on me, and that's what Arsenal did. Yeah.
So the problem is, and this is why many people won't stand out, is deals like that. Nicola Pepe, yes, maybe 40, 45, because guys, there was no market for Pepe in the first place. But anyway, that's another story. I agree with what you're saying about the injuries side. My point is, as guys were saying, we're a mid-table team. Arsenal have only the last time Arsenal finished outside before last year. The last time Arsenal finished outside the top 6 was in 1994. Right? We've been Europe for 25 years. Even in those periods where we're outside of the top 6, we find a way to make it into. We've actually never fell outside the top 6 until last year. We found a way to still play in Europe. Can you still call us a mid-table side if even in this season we're staring qualification into the Champions League in the face? Hopefully we don't lose to Villarreal tonight because I will cry. But that's for me what I kind of feel it's a little bit too premature because of the fact that of our track record and also our ability to always find a way to stay in Europe. Last season, I found the back door to Europa through the FA Cup. And that's it. But the only problem is that because you're still playing Europa, you find yourself in that Everton, that former Everton, and when West Ham was still humping back in the early 2000s era where you just can't break into the top 4 because you're not getting enough revenue, you're not being able to attract the best players, which is why Europa League tonight, next week Thursday, and final if it's against Manchester United is probably the most important 3 games of Arsenal in this decade, unless if we make a Champions League final. But this is the most important stretch, and this is where Arteta effectively is singing for a supper, and also going to stop AB and Dean from calling us a mid-table club.
No, but Mpo, just remember that people like AB and Dean are saying that mid-table starts at 7th position. So it's one of those where is that wholly incorrect?
I'm saying mid-table starts at 10.
Yeah, and
11.
yeah, it's tough. It's look, at the moment you can't fight against the current position of where you are. The thing is that because you would have been in the Super League because of UEFA coefficients and all sorts of other nonsense. I can understand.
The coefficient doesn't allow us to qualify. We've been out for a long time.
It's it's just historical. It's Thierry Henry. That's why you were included. I think the thing about where Arsenal are really is, like you say, it has to do with the revenue. And in terms of who they can bring in, they've made some horrendous decisions over the years. The problem really with the Willian contract in particular isn't necessarily that you signed him, but rather that you thought you were getting value because you didn't have to pay a transfer fee. That was one of the big issues. The other one was David Luiz was exactly the same way. And the thing about both of those deals was when you have to start looking at the free transfers as being your marquee signings, generally, it's already a sign as to what's happening with the club. That they are
There's
just
a team
not
in
in the
South
space.
Africa that does that.
Yeah. They are. But we're not talking about them.
They're also
we're
12.
Not talking about,
so
yeah?
same thing. It's the same thing. Let me
Come
just
to
get
us
to
for
Dean
free.
Let me just get to Dean quickly. What do you make of this conversation? I know you don't like Arsenal, but is it time for me to consider ourselves like Everton back in the days?
I mean, there's a long answer and there's a short answer. Short answer is you should have considered yourself worse than Everton a long time ago. But the thing is, you look at Arsenal's finishes, right? Over the last 4 years, they were 5th, 6th, 5th, and 8th. And what are they finishing this year? 10th, if they're lucky, right? You're behind a club that just got promoted in Leeds right now. So
Can't defend. Leeds cannot defend, except once. Okay, they defended last week.
But guys, this whole season with all our injuries that we can't defend. The fact that we beat Spurs and we beat Manchester United should tell you something about the fact that there is something there. Surely.
There is something there because in that time, though, they've won 2 FA Cups. That's the thing. So in 5 years, they've won 2 FA Cups. So you can't...
That's why it's doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom. So
but mid-table clubs do win cups, except for Spurs.
Well, that's because we're a top 6 club, sorry. So don't worry.
Oh, my bad.
But the thing is, look at the FA Cup. Wigan. It's a good point though, because Wigan also won that cup. So
Portsmouth.
You get lucky. But my thing is, in terms of the league, and I think this is Arsenal can get lucky on the day, 100%. They can beat whoever if they feel like playing. Over 38 games, they can't. And I think that's where they're getting shown up at the moment. And, that's down to a lot of reasons. There's the coaching. They've had changes, chops and changes. The players that they've brought in are terrible.
Personnel.
Guys, there's a lot of problems that are in that. They want to sell it to Spotify. I'm cancelling my Spotify premium subscription.
Not selling to Spotify.
Why? We need the money.
to the
Spotify
guy.
wants
How
to
are we gonna
buy
get
them.
Odegaard?
I mean,
I
the
don't want you
Emirates
to
brought
get
to you by
anyone.
Spotify.
I don't want to. If the owner of Spotify buys Arsenal, that's me. I'm gone. I'm using Deezer. I'm using one of these other fake things because I don't
Jukes.
trust.
He's Jukes all the way.
I don't trust any of these other. But here's the point. I don't think
Just go back to
Arsenal-
LimeWire, man.
Yeah. Arsenal can turn it up, and that's the thing. That's why I don't think they are. I don't think they're mid-table yet. And I think exactly like you said, Paul, if they get to a Europa League final and they win the thing, all of a sudden things are happy, and they're considered a great team, and they always start on top of the log because alphabetically they're always first. That's the only thing that keeps your
Dean,
fan base going.
Great points. But I said this last season that winning the FA Cup was one of the worst things to ever happen to Arsenal. Because
paper cut.
as usual,
Now you're going to tell me winning Europa is the worst thing that's going to happen to Arsenal.
It will be exactly the same unless.
Why do you think Spurs are not winning trophies? It's the worst thing that could happen
it papers over the cracks. This is the problem.
No,
because
true.
Giving you the Champions League would be fantastic. Europa, that's a great one really good point of winning the thing is Champions League qualification comes with it. But does that then fix the things that you have that are problematic at the club? Because in essence, you need to start purchasing players that work in the systems that you need. And right now, there's too many, players who just don't deliver.
They don't.
It also doesn't help that Saka is up and down the pitch. Is he a left wing? Is he a left back? Is he a midfielder? Right? Okay,
they'll probably
fine.
put him in goal soon. Just to see if he can
look,
cut it
at
up.
this point, it might not.
At least
hurt.
if he can close his legs, unlike Leno, then maybe he stands a chance.
Oh, Leno, he's a generous guy. But I think Arsenal are a club that really are in serious danger of almost completely flaming out if they don't make some drastic changes to the playing personnel. Stick with Arteta. I do think that this chopping and changing of managers really doesn't help any situation. And I think, start trying to make things work because you can see he's managed to get the best out of some of these players on occasion. There's been some massive games from Arsenal where you see, okay, fine, when they're definitely locked in and they know what they want to do, then there's an actual team there. But they just get found out way too often.
Yeah. Look, you guys all make valid points. I've spoken about Arsenal a very long time, but winning Europa will not be the worst thing. I will take that hope that comes with that final. I will take all the way to the bank because it gives me straight into that Super League called Champions League. Because now there's nothing. AB, what's your final point on this?
If Arsenal weren't Arsenal, and if the position Arsenal held right now was by Spurs, Chelsea, United, Liverpool, City, come the end of the season, the manager would be fired. Regardless.
It says a lot. It says
we're above
lot,
Arsenal and our manager got fired.
Yeah, look, I mean, so
Chelsea were above us when they fired Frank. So it just shows you of the ambitions of Stan and his.
No. The club knows who you are. The club knows who you are. You're not going to be. Who else is going to want to be there?
And also, don't insult Willian, guys. Paul Willian.
Us into the Denver Nuggets of the NBA.
Can't Jack Wilshere come back and become coach?
I called you the Utah Jazz. Jack Wilshere. Hey,
dude, the Jazz are the best. Are the best team in basketball. Please don't give me that.
Okay, so who? The Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, as long as you don't say Chicago Bulls, then we get.
It might even be. In fact, better the Bulls than the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I'll take the Grizzlies for now.
That's about right.
So Ian on Twitter says, and he's Spurs fans, just simple maths. Top equals 7, mid up until 14, bottom until 20. So Arsenal's a mid-table side. Quickly, gents, quickly. United play Liverpool at Old Trafford. Klopp has not beaten United at Old Trafford. What are your score predictions for this game? Is it just going to be a dull draw, or are we going to expect some action from the main protagonists, i.e. Salah and Bruno? Sai?
I honestly think that Liverpool are in a very tricky situation here because they've got to keep pushing, right? I mean, if they stop, there's still a chance for them to get into the Champions League places, and they have to basically pull out all the stops to try and get there. But it requires them beating teams they haven't beaten at their home grounds before. So I think that Klopp is the kind of manager who doesn't know how to just sit back. I think this will be, but I do think this will probably be a score draw, like maybe a 1-1, potentially even an exciting 2-2. But I think more likely a 1-1.
Dean, is there anything that Liverpool can bring to try and get themselves up? Because these are the games they need to win.
It's definitely the games they need to win, but I agree with Cyrus. I think at best it's a 1-1, and I think, and we'll chat about it later, but it's the first time in FPL where I've gone, cool, I'm benching Fernandes and Jota. So because you just don't expect either of them to do anything. It's just one of those games where it's like, it's the same as if Burnley had to play Brighton. No one really cares. It's got a lot of...
No one cares about Manchester United, Liverpool.
But in terms of the season, it's, Liverpool obviously are pushing for top 4. United, they banked second position. They don't really care. But look at how flat they were over the weekend as well. I mean, if they rock up like that. It's just going to be a dull game.
United are never going to just let Liverpool run into town and be like,
you hope someone pulls up some pride. You hope someone pulls some pride in this league, actually.
Fernandes is going to score.
Let's go.
Fernandes is going to score.
AB, you showed us that it's probably going to be a 1-1. What do you think is going to happen on Sunday?
I think United will rotate a lot. I think tonight and next week, Thursday, is the biggest games of United's season. Ollie is no longer concerned about the league. He knows he's qualified for the Champions League. He wants to break that dry spell of trophies, and he needs to, in my opinion, just go full out and try and win this trophy. However, there is something sweet in knowing if you beat Liverpool, their hopes of playing in the Champions League are dented. And that's important. Liverpool. That's what Ollie needs to do. But I would look Donny to start.
Every United fan would want to beat them, right?
No, that's fine. But also, Liverpool. But you're not going to go and risk winning a trophy versus trying to beat Liverpool. You could go then draw to Liverpool. That's fine. And Liverpool may suffer along the way of not qualifying for Champions League. But be smart here. Ollie doesn't like to rotate. We've got 13 players basically, and De Gea is one of them as well. So that just shows how bad Ollie doesn't like to rotate. It's a weird derby, but I think 1-1 will happen. I think United will get a penalty. It happens.
Fernandes, I said, he's gonna score.
So I do think I do agree with AB. It's going to be a weird derby. I'm hoping some of the guys score. Obviously, everyone's going to watch. We're just hoping that except for Dean, we just hope that there'll be some goals. But let's move on to what Dean said about benching Jota and Fernandes in our FPL section. Please hang on for a couple of moments as we get ourselves ready to discuss that point and a little bit more. And we're back. Thank you for still holding on. This is our FPL show where we ask Cyrus what's going on with his team. He hasn't been on where we found out why Dean is benching Jota and Fernandes and who he's putting in. And also we found out how AB's trying to he's literally holding on for dear life at the top of our line. It's just funny to see week in and week out when all his picks just go awry and you're like, dude, it's rough. But Dean, you said this is game week 34. It's not a blank game week. It's actually a full game week. You've got Spurs, you've got City players back, so everyone's happy. Why are you benching Jota and Fernandes in this match against Liverpool?
I mean, Fernandes has done about as much as Mourinho's done in the last 2 weeks. Nothing sat on his bum. So there's no point in having Fernandes. That's why, honestly, in terms of FPL, it's time to get Greenwood into your team, because he's the only one that looks like he can do anything in that team. And Jota, you just don't know if he's going to start. And I think it's Liverpool's final hurdle until they have a relatively easy run of games, and I think that's where they're more looking to target. And yeah, the rest of the guys just have better fixtures. So I mean, I've got Bamford, I've got Kane up front, I've got Chris Wood, who's hat-trick hero. Thank goodness he came through. I also would have ended up on like 15 points last week. And yeah, there's a lot of the other teams that have had relatively easy games that I've got in defense. Like you look at Leeds have got Brighton, Spurs have got Sheffield, Wolves, although they can let in a few goals, have got West Brom. So it's relatively easy picking there. It was weird for me to bench both, but at the same time, I would hate to have Fernandes on the field and get 2 points and then have someone like Dallas get a 17-pointer and he's on your bench, like what we've seen in more recent weeks. So it's just one of those, and yeah, have to take a bit of a punt trying to catch
Okay. So let's go into your team, your selections for this week, your transfers, your captaincy, your differentials. You've chosen to transfer in Gilon, transfer Matt Target. You've got Harry Kane as captain and Gareth Bale. So it's all Spursy as your differential. You're thinking around that?
Oaks are going to be upset about losing to the final, so they want to come out firing. No, Target's got some bad games coming for. I mean, Aston Villa are nowhere at the moment. To concede the way that they did and things like that, it's just shocking. So Target had to go. Spurs have got a relatively easy run on the next 4. They got Sheffield, Leeds, Wolves, Villa in the next 4. So one of the top teams that have got an easier run. In Liverpool's next, but like we said, they face United this week. So bringing in a Spurs defender I wanted to, and Davies is injured, and Aurier is just a red card waiting to happen. So that's why. Bale differential 2.3%, but he's playing. He's starting with Mason in coach, so he's 100%. Yeah, but that's because
you had a golf thing that weekend.
we were trying to trick the opposition there.
You're trying to trick Man City.
Fact. We had to try anything. Man games. Look, Bale can work. He will play. He 100% will play. It's just that's why it's a differential. I don't have Bale in my team, so I've got some.
Okay.
So and then Kane captain Sheffield. Yeah, man's upset. He's gonna score goals. Simple.
Okay. So on my end, my team, I kind of decided I made quite a few transfers, but yeah, I was at the point where I'm like, it's the final month. Let me just try and push us through. So the guys I've also taken out Matt Target, and I've brought in Sufal. I think he's a really good differential option as a defender. Kelechi's my captain. He did well as a captain this weekend for me, scoring goals and an assist. And then Jack Harrison, this guy is a top 10 points getter from the midfield at 5.4, and he's only owned about 6.6% of the people, or is it's less than that. And for me, I kind of felt as though, you know what, I need to give Leeds props. I know what he doesn't want to. He's the guy. So essentially, this guy literally will average about 4.5 points a game week for Leeds. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just give him a run. They've got an easy run, and it's for the final 5-6 games. And so we'll see how it goes. So for me, I brought in Jack Harrison, and he's a really good differential option because I think Leeds play Brighton. So that's probably goals galore because Brighton can't score goals and Leeds can. So that's going to be very interesting. And Kelechi, I went to him last week. He came good for me. I'm going to him again this week as well. They play Southampton, and Vardy can't score. I don't know what's going on there, but Kelechi can. So I've also subbed out Jota and left Bruno. So that'll be something. Cyrus, let's look at your team. I know you haven't played since Gameweek 28, but let's go through it.
Well, let's put it this way. Yes, I did retire. However, I didn't really retire. So I have been playing. I've actually been scoring points, which has been surprising for me and doing quite well. I went with Kane because I transferred him out, obviously, but I brought him back in.
Why?
And I will captain him.
Because he was injured.
Yeah, it was that. and then also the cup final nonsense. So but I think that he will be a scorer against Sheffield United, who have just been horrible. Reece James, I think, is probably going to start this game, and Chelsea are playing Fulham, so it's a good chance that he'll probably play because he came on as a sub against Real Madrid, and we had Cesar Azpilicueta play for the majority of the last couple of games. So it just makes sense to have Reece James in. And I think he's, depending on what happens with the strikers, because I have a feeling that Tuchel might try something a little different this weekend. And potentially throw in somebody like Giroud or Tammy to start against Fulham. Just to give them a little bit of a breather and also potentially get some more goals from guys who can actually find the back of the net. So, and if there's anybody who loves whipping balls in, it's Reece James. So I think that Reece James to Giroud should be a thing. I think Jota's been one of those where he had a really great hot streak. He's gone off the boil a bit. When they couldn't score against Newcastle, I was like, this is the sign. There's major problems with Liverpool. If they can't put Newcastle away, there's going to be, an issue with some of these other players going forward. So that's why I've also said Jota, if there's a guy who's going to sit out, it's potentially him, as in like either sub him out or completely transfer him out. I'm actually potentially looking at trying to get another Leicester person in. I'm not sure if Maddison is back.
He is. He is.
Because
I did
in
see.
my team.
Yeah,
he's on my bench.
He might be a good player to bring in because Leicester have actually surprised me. I'd expected them to start dropping points. Their run-in's not terrible, but the thing is, it was the mental fragility. I looked at this set of players and I thought, if they're going to get caught, now's the time. And they've managed to find the results. And without Iheanacho getting the goals for them, they would have done exactly as I'd expected. But then that's why I put Kelechi in, because I know the guy has got a never say die attitude. I mean, he's a City reject, so he's got a point to prove.
So we've got a message on YouTube, and you can send in your messages as you'd like. This one's from a special person. She says, "Hi guys, Ole here. I'm going to sit deep and try and nick a goal on the break. I don't know anything else. Cheers, Ole." So
what's sorry? Can we just look at the fact that Ole has used his name twice in this message? I do think he might need a rest this weekend. Maybe he should rotate out.
That's the only concern about the legitimacy of that message.
Yeah.
The fact that he used his name twice.
Yeah.
Must be fake because of that.
No, he's just tired. It was clearly
100%
all the best tonight. Yeah. It's 2 hours before the game, so
he's watching the cheap seats. I mean,
obviously.
This is what we'd expect.
Tactics,
that's the
caliber. Tonight, Donny van der Berg start. Donny van der Berg. No, Bruno. Donny.
He's not starting. Donny van der Berg not starting.
Okay, so from that little Ole break to the man who does support Ole, AB, your team. What are your picks this week? What have you done in your team? I see you got Matheus Pereira, who's a lovely differential.
So okay, unfortunately Smith Rowe, he's thereabouts, so he's coming out. Pereira's coming in because I think West Ham have a fairly chilled fixture. Well, I mean, regardless of their fixtures, they need points. So if someone's going to do it, Pereira's going to do it. Differential, Andreas Christensen. He's owned by like 2% of the population, and he plays. He always starts. Chelsea have kept 2 clean sheets in a row. So regardless of their Champions League rotation and all of that, I think he'll play because Tuchel can't really risk playing any other centre-backs. And then main man Harry Kane up front in white while he still can wear it. Why not?
Have a white away kit?
Who?
Don't United have a white away kit?
No, not for next year.
Season.
City have one for now, but they're going to change their away kits. So...
Don't worry, he'll be in white.
Maybe whichever
season,
team
guys.
wears white next
Don't
season.
worry, man's not going anywhere.
He says as his voice trembles.
Don't make me cry myself to sleep tonight, please.
Okay.
It's the rocking.
Guys. one last thing. I think Ole might have another message for. He does. He has another message for us. He's bored on the team bus. He's been sat next to Michael Carrick. Great show, guys. Thanks, Ole.
Thanks, Ole.
We'll try to give you more tactics next week. But from a captaincy perspective, I know 3 of you guys went for Kane. I went for Iheanacho. Are there any other captaincy guys that you're looking for this weekend? Would somehow, somewhere scoring a hat-trick. Is there that type of a person that you can go for?
Bamford against Brighton. If you want to take a punt,
Ooh,
man can score some goals.
Proper punt.
Yeah.
So
anybody at Arsenal against Newcastle?
I was actually going to say. I mean, look, if Aubameyang, is he going to play? Is he still out?
He's fit,
right? I think Oba could actually score against Newcastle. Newcastle are horrid. They are proper horrid. Steve Bruce still has a job. That is an incredible thing for me. But potentially Aubameyang at Arsenal. No, Steve Bruce. He's doddering. That's what he is. I mean, the craziness of this is he is still worse than Crystal Palace's manager Ray Hodgson, who is most likely going to retire and move into an old age home at the end of the season. Right? Steve Bruce. Oh my word!
But look at Joe Willock. Joe Willock. Look at he scored late winner against Spurs.
He scored against Spurs. He scored against Liverpool, and I think he scored against.
Against Chelsea as well.
Late-minute winners.
Yeah.
So
he's got the legs.
He's got the legs. This week.
No, he won't play. Yeah, he won't play. But when you're looking at John Joe Shelby in your team, you got to ask some serious questions, guys. You've got to really ask some serious questions about what's happening there. I honestly, like Callum Wilson must be thinking it would have been better to go down with Bournemouth than stay up with Newcastle.
Wow.
That is huge.
Wow.
So I said it.
City play Crystal Palace. Is there anybody from City in the Pep rotation?
Are you going to
do not risk it, guys?
You're going to test Pep.
Guys. They are this close to the Champions League final. Please do not bias. No. Who's City? Is Claudio Bravo still at City?
No, it's Zach Steffen.
No, they've got
He'll play.
Stefan will definitely play.
No, but what about Sterling, Jesus, Aguero up front against Crystal Palace? Does that not entice anybody?
Don't try it. Do not try it, please.
He'll probably play that Liam Delap Oak up front, their striker, before he plays any of those other guys.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, no City, and one.
I think West Ham against Burnley. Lingard might be a decent one as well.
Yes.
This is the one. I'm gonna say something hugely controversial. Hugely controversial. So don't judge me for this. This will be the game that Jesse Lingard picks up an injury that rules him out of the Euros.
Don't you put that evil on him.
Wow. Okay.
It's Burnley.
Cyrus.
It's Burnley. I can see it.
Chris Whitmer said.
Cyrus, why do you want to remind me of Ryan Shawcross? Because this week we found out that 3 more spots are available to go on the plane to Euros. So you want to be number 24, number 25, or number 26. And currently, I think Jay Lings might be in.
I'm touching wood. I don't want it to happen. I just
if he gets injured, I'm coming to your house.
I'm just saying. Somebody told me.
Lotto numbers, right?
Guys, it's Dele Alli. Dele Alli is getting that last spot. Have you seen? He got a new haircut. Man's on fire.
Number 26.
Man's literally gonna come through. It's worse than Aubameyang's haircut, and that's saying a lot. So I don't want him anywhere on the pitch.
Don't judge Oba's hair.
Okay, Jez, let's close it out now. Thank you very much, guys, for a great show. Cyrus and his controversial picks on my word. But anyway, thank you for to everyone who's watched and listened. Thank you, Ole. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Ole.
Keep them coming. Remember, you can follow us on these different platforms as we try and get through to the end of the season. Most importantly, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks, guys. To everyone who's watching, enjoy the weekend of sport. Enjoy Manchester United versus Liverpool as much as you can, depending on where you sit. Enjoy the Europa League semi-finals because it is Thursday night and we are live on all the platforms. Yeah, I'm probably going to be crying tomorrow morning, so maybe do check up on me.
No need for tears. No need for tears. You're a mid-table team. Take what you can get.
Go watch
Magic
7
of-
Lions.
The magic of the Europa League, guys.
I'll take what I can get, but thank you very much, guys. Thank you to everyone watching, and we'll see you next week for another episode of The Cheap Seats.